Hello and welcome back. The topic today is very specific. SLS in personal care products. Is it okay or not okay? But before that, an ancient Buddhist Kutti story, almost more than 2500 years old, but has since been used in multiple contexts in different religious and non-religious backgrounds. So once upon a time there was a very kind king who ruled over his subjects with great wisdom. He had a council of ministers who they were very good, but they were always fighting amongst each other as to who was the wisest. The king was patient with them initially, but over time the ego clashes were kind of getting out of hand. Each of these ministers felt that the other four were completely useless and that the king was better off with just them. When things were in this situation, the king went away on an official journey to a faraway land, and he found it to be a very exotic trip. He learnt about a lot of things, but in particular about one animal which was never before seen in his native kingdom, and this animal was called the elephant. He arranged for one such creature to be brought back to his country, and as soon as he told his ministers about this elephant, each of them wanted to be the first to go see the animal. The king said that all five of them could go see the animal, but there was a condition. They would have to see the animal with their eyes blindfolded, and whoever best described the elephant, they would get to be his prime minister. The five ministers jumped up to the challenge, though each of them felt that their knowledge was too vast for a small silly test like this, and went to see the animal with their blindfolds on. With faltering steps, they gathered around the animal and explored it with their hands. The one standing closest to the elephant's head felt that the elephant's trunk, he felt it up and down, and then he declared that the elephant was merely a large, very rough snake. Another one reached up to its ear and concluded that the elephant was a large fan. The minister closest to the elephant's leg felt that the animal was just like a strong, solid pillar, a strong tree, and the one that felt the tail decided that all of this was too much drama for an animal which felt like a thin rope. A spear was what came to the mind of the minister who felt the elephant's tusks. While each one was very content in their wisdom of having figured the animal out, the king came in and asked for the blindfolds to be removed, and the ministers figured out that they were very, very far from the actual picture after they got to look at the magnificent animal that an elephant truly is. The king then told them that while each of them was intelligent, he needed them to be a lot more humble and open-minded, to be actually wise, and to work together to guide the kingdom better. The idea is that, like the blind men, we all know some parts of the exposome, but not the complete picture. We need more information, more collaboration, more research, which can open our eyes to actually see the exposome elephant in full and identify it as such. This is already happening to some extent within the personal care products, but we are like a long way away from full vision. So you'll find a lot of half correct or worse, mostly wrong information on the internet, which may be very, very far from the actual truth. The idea is to keep your scientific temper high while looking for the truth. My position here is simple. My objective through this episode, much like most of the exposome videos, is to give you a fair view into the current safety and efficacy status of the stuff that we come in contact with in our environment, in our exposome. I'm generally not for or against anything in eternity or forever. My opinions are purely based on whatever I got to learn about the topic based on the latest today's scientific evidence, and these opinions are very much likely to change based on any updates in the scientific evidence in the future. For example, if something is considered okay today, but 2 years down the line, if there is an evidence to the contrary, I would gladly update my opinion to reflect that evidence truthfully, because that's how scientific opinions work. So yes, to the question again, is it okay to use SLS based personal care products, which could primarily be face washes, shampoos, wash off products, rinse off products, or are these not considered safe? Today, we're going to remind ourselves of that game of block and tackle that we used to play in school. In debates, we speak for and against. We are going to do the same thing, look at both sides of the coin, and then decide what's in favor of SLES and SLS, and then what's against, and come to a conclusion based on current evidence. First point is, as I just mentioned, there are two of them: SLS, Sodium Lauryl Sulfate, and then SLES, which is Sodium Laureth Sulfate. Sodium Lauryl Sulfate is the original item, and the laureth is the ethoxylated version of SLS. And most of the bad press that you get to see has been mostly about SLS. Now to the debate. First question, does SLS cause cancer? As this is the first question on everyone's mind, considering the rumors that are all over the internet, we'll take this first. Based on the cosmetic ingredients report, which looks both at the usage data as well as the published experimental studies and stretches this further to include toxicology reports, including animal studies, high concentration testing and so on. There was no evidence, there has been no evidence, there is no evidence to support the rumor that SLS causes cancer. Until date, this has only been proved to be a rumor, and you can at this point of time in research safely remove this fear from your mind. 2. Does SLS irritate the eyes? Does it cause irritation to the lens in the eyes, or does it cause cataract if you apply it? SLS definitely irritates the eyes, as do many other detergents, shampoos or soaps. That's the nature of the product. But there's no evidence to support that it goes down all the way to the lens and causes cataract if by mistake your shampoo gets into the eye, because the eye is not a simple balloon that you drop something on the surface and it just travels inside. There are many layers between the lens and the surface of the eye, and that this material, SLS, is not expected to corrode all the way down. It's not a corrosive. Say corrosive would be something like sulfuric acid or hydrochloric acid which travels down, but SLS is more of an irritant, much like any other surfactant or detergent. Question number 3, does SLS cause skin irritation? Yes, at a higher concentration, SLS may cause skin irritation and is best avoided by people who have sensitive skin. In rinse-off products like shampoos and soaps and face washes, which is what we're discussing in the EXPOSOME series, SLS is not expected to cause irritation in most individuals. There is a set limit within which formulations must fall. The CIR report mentions the comfortable use of SLS even up to 50% in wash-off products, while a maximum limit of only 1% is allowed in leave-on products. In irritation potential, quoting a study from a journal called Contact Dermatitis, SLS has a higher irritation potential than SLES, and people who had irritation from SLS took about 30% longer time to recover than those who did with SLES. So irritation potential definitely there. 4. Does SLS cause hair loss? While SLS can cause scalp irritation, there is no major data to show that it causes active hair loss. However, when we use SLS repeatedly in high concentrations on heat processed, damaged, treated, colored, straightened, smoothened, keratined hair, this may actually worsen the weathering of the hair by reducing the strength and integrity of the outer cuticle. Though this is the data, in my experience in practice, I found that even when you used sulfate-free shampoos, they were still damaging to the hair if the pH was too high, say over 6.5 or 7. The only thing I found that mattered to help the hair was a regular leave-in conditioning serum which sealed the cuticles after every single wash, both for treated hair and virgin hair. Now, my experience would be called as very low-level evidence, where I say that sulfated shampoos are as bad as non-sulfated shampoos compared to the CIR evidence for hair weathering. CIR is meta-analysis of meta-analysis. We are going to go with that CIR evidence and say that you are better off with SLS-free shampoos if you have treated hair, which could be any of those that we discussed, colored, weathered or straightened, smoothened hair, or even if your hair is exposed to a lot of wind, heat, dust in the sun. But then you could also add my 2 cents from the practical experience, which is to always seal the cuticles and protect the hair by using a leave-in after wash serum. So you use a lot of evidence and then you add a little bit of experience and you make your evidence that much better. So let's still emphasize, we are still talking about hair and structure. There's no evidence to say that SLS containing shampoos cause hair loss. So that's where we are at. Question number 5, does SLS cause damage to the ecosystem? Now, SLS can be derived completely from plants like palm or coconut, or synthetically from petrochemicals. So, depending on the source, it may damage the ecosystem at different levels. So, while monocultures like palm are a threat to the biodiversity because they reduce animal habitats like those of the orangutan, petrochemical processes contribute to global warming. So, like most of the chemicals that go into a personal care product, even if it is completely plant-based, there's always an environmental impact to anything that man does, to any human activity, and this is no different. So in terms of origin, if you're looking at purely natural origin, yes, it is completely possible for SLS to be plant-based or natural derived, but SLES will always have a petrochemical part thanks to the ethoxylation. The ethoxylation is what makes SLES milder than SLS, but that is also the same thing that makes it not completely natural. So to summarize, is SLS safe in face washes? Based on current data and evidence, probably yes. If you do get your face wash into your eyes, it may cause irritation, which is the same for any soap or face wash with or without SLS. But if you do have sensitive skin, you may find that it is better to avoid this ingredient in your shampoos and face washes. But in general, you need to judge a product in total, not just from the ingredient, because many well-tolerated products, even those meant for sensitive skin, do contain SLS because maybe the other products in the formulation balance out the SLS. So it entirely depends upon the individual and the individual product. But SLS is not known to cause cancer. It is not known to cause sensitivity, as in if you leave your face wash on for hours together or overnight, it might give you a bad irritant reaction, but the SLS will not make you more sensitive and make you more reactive against other products in general. The status on SLES is similar, except that it will never be an all natural product and it's much less of an irritant. But are there other options available? Why are we talking so much about these two? Yes, there are many other options available, which are what are considered as milder detergents. But again, don't judge the product only by the label, because some products known to be made with only mild detergents, mild surfactants have been known to cause skin sensitivity as well. You need to take the product, you need to look at the merit in whole. Plus, if the detergents are too mild to cleanse, you will end up scrubbing the skin too hard. This again can cause pigmentation and roughness from the scrubbing and rubbing on and handling of the skin itself. So I shall try and update this information on SLS if there is anything new that comes up in evidence in the future. But for now, you need not be afraid of SLS containing products. If you want to avoid SLS, absolutely fine, but not out of fear, but because you want to try something else, which is totally okay. I'll see you soon, and we will get started on the next part in your skincare routine, which is about sunscreens. Take care. See you soon.